This is Raul Ramirez of the Catch Wrestling Alliance. We help you to elevate your grappling so that together we can keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much for joining us. We have one of our favorite people on planet Earth, Maria Lee.
Hi.
Yeah, so she's a trainer in near Vancouver, Canada. You're in Richmond, right?
Yeah,
Canada.
that's where all the Asians are. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's amongst her people in the in the so but you have a lot of experience training bodybuilding, and so today we want to get some of your pointers for like how to recover faster after working out. Like say especially if you have like your goal is to compete and be uh, and to continue competing and even at the higher levels, you got to maximize or optimize your recovery. So take it away, Maria. It's getting hard. What are some of your top tips, though, or some of the things you think are most important?
Well, I mean, there is so much there, but if we're going to ask the question of whether or not you want your goal is you want to win and you want to succeed at your career and you want to keep improving your performance, then I think it's really important to first really accept the fact that you want to be as disciplined as possible. And that doesn't mean just at the gym and on the mat, right? That means that you have the courage and the willpower and the fortitude to choose the better, healthier option for yourself that is going to be aligned with the goal that you want. I assume all your listeners, they want to improve at their game, they want to improve their performance, right? And so, it's easy for us to do well at the things we enjoy. So if you enjoy grappling and you enjoy, boxing or whatever, then that is going to be something easy for you to excel at. You're going to want to do better at that. You're going to want to keep pushing yourselves and keep challenging yourselves, right? But that is one, even though it's a huge part of the pie, it's only one part of the pie, because all the other lifestyle factors and nutrition factors need examination and improvement as well. If you want to really, really get higher and higher and higher and elevate your performance, right? So I wanted to say that as a sort of a fundamental premise that we want to agree on, because there may be some choices that you need to make that you may not feel super excited about, right? So of course, we talked about this off right before, and we said, of course, things like sleep are super important. So making sure you are sticking to your sleep regimen and you're really honoring that part of your daily cycle, because sleep is when we regenerate things. We wipe our memory clean. Our body does all this cleanup magic behind the scenes when we're really knocked out. And that's when all of the deep repair work on all your muscles, tendons, joints, everything is done then, right? So if you have this habit, which millions of people have, you have this habit of, staying up, watching stuff, being on YouTube, being on Netflix, being on Instagram, being on TikTok, whatever it is, and you just find that it's eating into your sleep hours. That is one of the key things, key, to really, really nip in the bud. Okay. If you want to, really bring your A game and be in any competitive um, shape, or, like try to get to that level, that's one thing you just got to nip in the bud. Okay. And number two is definitely using any massage protocols. So I only did a little bit of jiu-jitsu before, but it is like 100% red line effort, and those muscles get freaking sore and those tendons get worked. And so you just have to make sure you do your best to massage all of that out and stimulate blood flow into those areas. And you do your stretching and just like make sure all your tissues get optimally treated afterwards, whether you go and see somebody like an RMT, or you just do it on your own, like at home, right? I have a little Theragun that has been so useful for me every time I have done a hard workout and I'm really sore everywhere. It really does help to speed up the recovery from those days. Okay, so I mean, if you're looking for a cheaper investment, there are other guns out there that are just like $100, $150. But the Theragun has been one of the best because it's got a very high RPM, and so in terms of how it affects your tissues, it's actually very. It's anyway they designed it in a way that is actually very effective. Yeah, so that's sleep, and then any post-treatment treatment, right? Like, sorry, post-workout treatment. And then we have the nutrition side of things, which I think Raul is super excited about and what we want to talk about, right? So nutrition is actually such a huge part of this whole thing, okay? Like, I've been vegan now for 9 years. In 2 weeks or so, it'll be my ninth year anniversary. And let me tell you what it was like when I was in my early to mid 20s before I went vegan. I was sick at least twice a year. At least twice a year. I'd come down with the flu. I was just talking to my boyfriend about this. I would be down with the flu every winter and then spring. And then somehow I would get ear infections, sinus infections. My gut sometimes would be all messed up. I'd have bladder infections, just random infections that would hit me all the time. And I thought this was normal because as a kid, we would just have our sick days, and then that would just carry on into adulthood. And I really didn't think that it was possible to just not have anything going on, right? I'm sure some of you experience the same thing. And then after I decided to go vegan, oh my goodness, like it was like a veil had lifted off my body. And I from that day, I did not get sick for about 6-7 years. Seriously. From being sick like at least 2-3 times a year. And all those infections and all those weird things I just thought were part of being human, all of those were gone. And I mean, this is the thing I learned a few years ago, actually a long time ago, is that we're constantly exposed to viruses and bacteria and all these things that could take us down, right? It's not that the environments that we go and live in are free of germs. There's so many germs out there. It's whether or not our body is in a state that can fight those off naturally, right? And so the thing is, the problem with eating animal foods like meat that you buy at the supermarket and eggs and milk and stuff like that is because those foods innately contain a lot of bacteria and a lot of different toxins and antibiotics that affect our immune system. So not only are we dealing with, just the digesting of those foods, we're also taking in a big load of all these industrial grade and antibiotics, which I mean, okay, if you take antibiotics just from the doctor, they prescribe you a thing, maybe you have an infection somewhere, they prescribe you a round of antibiotics for 2 weeks, okay? Studies have found that those antibiotics will destroy your gut bacteria and cause you to have an imbalance in your gut biome for at least 6 to 12 months, sometimes 2 years. So your gut biome is out of balance and you will experience different gut issues as a result of one round of antibiotics. Isn't that crazy? And these are prescribed just like that, right? So when you eat things like meat, and this is what I did, like when I was a kid, we would eat like so much shit. Like I lived on fried chicken, and like I had like 5 eggs a day. Okay. So I didn't grow up like a raw vegan or anything like that. Like doesn't exist in Chinese culture. I was eating so much meat. I would throw back like 3 pounds of chicken wings at a time. Okay. So, I mean, that's just part of the culture, right? That's just part of like the way of living. You just think that's where protein comes from. So when I decided to stop, holy cow, like I could feel the inflammation leave my body. I could feel it. Like my gut felt lighter. It really felt lighter. And I felt more, everything was more aligned because it was no longer having to deal with all these different substances, like not only the antibiotics and the steroids and whatever else that's found in like factory processed meat, but also say you're eating seafoods and all those things, like you're taking in a lot of the industrial runoff that farms and other seafood farms basically live in, right? Like these creatures have to live in these farms unless you're spending hella money to get, you know, locally caught wild, you know, from rivers and whatnot. Most of the vast majority of the seafood out there is farmed, and you know these little fish and whatnot, they live in their own feces, right? There's like tens of thousands of these fish or whatever other creatures, and they're just swimming around in their own feces, and they do get sick, right? So anyway, not only do they have a lot of filth, they also have a lot of heavy metals because the oceans just naturally have all of this waste from all of the industry, you know, that's around. And then these heavy metals accumulate into the bodies of these fish and seafood, right? And so people eat these things, and this can cause neurological issues, digestive issues, you know, brain disorders, and you know, just all these different things. And so if you look at how the rates of these chronic diseases have really climbed and climbed and climbed over the decades, you know, you can really correlate them to the amount of animal foods that as a global population we are used to eating, right? Yeah, so first I want to lay down that foundation because I think it's important for us to be aware of the fact that, you know, it's not only like, oh, eat seeds for omega-3s, right? Like we have to think about things from a wider perspective where our bodies essentially are part of an environment, and our actions, you know, contribute and influence our environments and are also influenced by these environments and what we choose to eat, right? So there's so many interconnections between what we feel like and how our body works, and whether we experience health issues or concerns, and what is actually found in our food and where our food comes from and how it is processed, right? So it's not very is not as simple as some people it might not be as simple as what we've been led to believe, right? Oh, you just eat a yummy meal and then boom, you got your protein. Is not that simple. um
Yeah, definitely. So I think like say like someone who's coming from like actually even grappling, because like right now it's still kind of newer in the it's huge, but they're just kind of introducing a lot of these drug tests and stuff like that, like performance enhancing drug tests. And so uh kind of like the main performance enhancing drug that I think people can think of are steroids, right? And so what do they do? Really, they're used in a medical way to reduce inflammation so
mhm.
that you can feel like you're recovered, and so then you can continue working out. They don't necessarily like make you like they don't pump up your muscles. Actually, their main thing is reducing inflammation so you can continue to work out hard. So if it's kind of with that in mind, the things that so like your workout's going to cause inflammation because you're doing little micro damage, right?
Exactly.
But then your diet, so like the stuff you eat can also be adding inflammation.
Yes.
So then your body would have to
Mhm.
fight the food inflammation and then get to your muscle inflammation. So it's like you're just um, like you're making the process uh, like you're stymieing the process. So I think diet can be one of the ways where you can more like optimally recover, so that you can have that effect, kind of like the steroids, without using the
Totally.
steroids, right?
Exactly. It's like natural steroids. Like, honestly, I mean, this is the thing. And I think, man, eating a more plant forward diet is really one of the keys, like one of the major keys. And some people hate this because it's so simple and it's so easy, because it's just like a replacement, right, of certain foods that maybe we've gotten used to eating. But yeah, the magic of eating plant-based foods is incredible. And that's why, I mean, there's those athletes like that tennis player, what's his name, no Novak or whatever, and Serena Williams and Venus Williams, and all these athletes who've been able to improve their performance by cutting out meat. I mean, if you have foods that you're eating, like for example, all your leafy greens, you have your berries, you have your seeds, you have some nuts, you have legumes, you have beans, and all of these contain varying levels of natural um, phytonutrients, antioxidants, and different compounds that can help you actually prevent developing cancer and keep you young, and actually help you reduce inflammation, and have fiber in them, which no meat has. I mean, fiber itself is so amazing because it keeps you, one, regular, and two, it provides your gut with what it wants the most, which is all these chemicals that will allow it to stay balanced. I mean, it's really amazing. Like, plant foods have both protein and fiber in them, and also so many different vitamins and minerals that you need. And I mean, when people think like, oh, it doesn't have any protein, of course they do. I mean, if you think about it, where do the cows and the chicken, where do they make their protein? Like, their bodies are meat and people eat that meat. But then these animals, they don't go and eat meat. They eat freaking grass and feed and soy and corn. So how does that happen? Right? It doesn't really make any sense, because we can literally just go straight to the source and get the amino acids from plant foods, and also avoid the inflammatory, let's say, the inflammation that eating animal foods can cause in your body, and also get this fiber, which will keep you regular. I mean, it's like a no-brainer, honestly. And I mean, I've been eating plant protein for now 9 years, and it's so easy to build muscle, and it's so easy. I mean, recovery is no problem. It's no problem. Like, as a vegan person, and I can lift pretty heavy usually, and it's really amazing how the diet can directly contribute to improve performance that way. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I remember when I was a trainer back at UCLA many years ago, but they really emphasized us being certified through the National Strength and Conditioning Association, like in the United States, it's like one of our big research organizations for exercise. And I remember even back then, this was like the early 2000s, where because they would publish. So I'd get at my home like their publication of like quarterly research that they put out. So one of the research studies that they put out was on like vegetarian or vegan athletes, and what they found is, yeah, that just like subsequent studies have shown, there's like really no difference in like the ability to be an athlete or to grow muscle and stuff, because they found out. And also too, like, there's a thing about protein in our culture where it's like they try to say like, yeah, plants don't have it, but even according to the research from the National Strength and Conditioning Association, they found out it's like just basically just as long as you're eating enough all day and like you're not like starving, you're hitting your protein requirements. So and you're able to work out. So that's why we can kind of go back to a lot of these ideas where it's like, well, you got to be doing the other things too, like the sleep, the stretching, the working on helping your muscles to recover, and like you should be fine. It's not necessarily going to be like too crazy, like you have to do some kind of crazy supplement regimen or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're worried about recovery, then I think it might be useful to try maybe a 30-day plants only approach and then see how you feel from that. If your listeners have any sort of gut issues, or maybe they struggle with bloat, or improper digestion or anything like that, it may be caused by any of those toxins that are found in the industrialized like foods that we eat, right? And so I think trying out, and it doesn't have to be expensive either. Like, I think especially now with the state of the world and like interest rates and the economy and all this stuff, like of course all of us want to be a little more mindful about where we spend money and how we spend it and the bang for the buck, right? And making sure we're not just blowing a ton of money. And you don't have to be spending hundreds, to eat more plant-based, right? Some of the cheapest foods in the world, like your legumes, have some of the highest contents of protein, right? Without the saturated fat that is going to clog your arteries. And you can go buy a bag of chickpeas, or go to the bulk food section at the grocery store and spend maybe $20 and get pounds and pounds of beans, right? And then you can get some tofu or some seitan, which is the derived protein from wheat, and that is a very, very high, like for the calorie, it is a high, very, very high source of protein. And so, I mean, if you just get a diverse selection of various beans, then you're definitely going to get enough protein for sure. And if you get enough protein along with the fiber and all the minerals and the vitamins from those foods, and you don't have to break the bank or hurt your wallet doing it, plus that you can reduce the inflammation in your body and slowly start to heal whatever conditions you might have. I mean, if you try that for just 1 month, and then you see what it's like on day 30, how you might feel, I mean, I think you might be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because yeah, many people have been pleasantly surprised. It's kind of like the preponderance of the evidence, right? Where it's a lot of things can get better. We're not saying that maybe you could probably still talk with your doctor and whatnot, like maybe have them monitor you if you have any kind of problems or any kind of like medical problems. But overall, it's like it just and it kind of goes back to the main topic where it's like you want to relieve the load off your body so that it can just focus on what it needs to do. And if your goal is to get to the UFC or compete well, it's like you want to take away as many problems that your body has to deal with so that it can focus on making you ready for the next workout.
Yeah, like becoming, yeah, even more powerful, more stronger, faster, more explosive, have more endurance, right? I think this is a big one too, where a lot of people, a lot of athletes who transition to more of a plant-based diet, like their endurance, like I was just looking at a list actually, like these Olympic medalists, in sprinting and cycling, they freaking got new personal bests from switching over, to eating more plants. And that is simply because of exactly what you said, Raul, be just because the amount of work that your body has to do, you're just lessening that work for your body. So I mean, it doesn't really have to deal with much toxins like all the crap that's found in meat and whatnot. You know what's funny too? Not funny, but this is cool actually, is that our bodies, they're just so intelligent. Right? They're just so intelligent. But sometimes these toxins, it doesn't really know what to do with them, right? It doesn't really know how to freaking deal with them. So like for example, those heavy metals or certain things that are found in meat. So what our bodies do is it actually stores them away in belly fat. It uses that as a way to protect and insulate those toxins away from the rest of the body. So when people say, "Oh, I can't seem to lose this belly fat," or "I have all this excess fatty tissue," I mean, you got to think about your diet, because if you're just plying your body with what you think is just meat, but it comes laden with these various substances that actually make it so hard on your body to stay healthy, and it requires it to work harder to protect itself from those substances, and it hides it away in your belly fat, and that's why you can't lose that excess, those inches from your waistline. I mean, that's another reason to try the 30-day challenge, because it can, like my clients and I myself, who have tried the plant-based thing, it's like it just kind of melts off, it does melt off, and it's actually so easy for me. I'm 37 now. I'm almost 38. And I mean, my girlfriends and everything who I went to high school with, like, they're struggling with their bodies. And I mean, if there's a thing you can do that can keep your body composition at a really powerful place and maintain that lean muscle mass without compromising, yourself and your performance and your agility and your power and your speed with this excess tissue. And this excess tissue is because of all these toxins that your body's hiding from you. Then I mean, it's another thing to get rid of, right? Another thing to take care of and resolve. Who wants freaking toxins in their bodies? Nobody, right? Yeah, you want
Yeah.
freaking light and fast and powerful and so strong, and just like keep freaking improving your skill and improving your performance overall without having to deal with gut issues or deal with this and that, and you're not feeling well this day because you have an upset stomach or whatever it is, or joint impairment, or your muscles aren't recovered yet. Oh my god, like, honestly, try this out.
Okay, yeah, no, I think it's great because it's really the main point of this whole thing about recovering faster. And it's like, yeah, it's like your body's the environment provides all these types of uh, things that your body will have to deal with. And then if your goal is to compete and all that, then you want to make sure that you get rid of as many. It's like, even like how you talked about, if you're staying up late, like doom scrolling, then you got
Oh
to try to
yeah.
cut that, right? So that you can sleep, right? So if you're eating all these things that are creating more inflammation in your body, then why don't you try more anti-inflammatory foods?
Yes. I mean, we were built to live on this planet and eat the fruits and the vegetables that come from the earth. We have become so disconnected because of these mega systems, right, that we're born into, and that we become reliant on. So you live in LA, I live in Vancouver-ish, right? And I mean, I'm thankful for it because we have infrastructure, we have, safe communities, we have cars and roads and whatnot, and a building I can live in, which is amazing. But also, there's the con of it, which is that we don't know what it's like to freaking grow a vegetable, right? We don't know what it's like to see a slaughterhouse, or to really really connect with with what we put into our body, where all that food comes from, right? It's called different names, and it's so like the distance between us as consumers and as just human beings who have to eat food, the distance from us and all the things that sustain us and that we pay money to get is so far. And this is a little bit messed up, because then we forget what our connection is with the entire planet. I mean, if we could all go and just see what it means to get that food onto our plate, I think people would act very differently, right? We would act very differently, because I mean, animals. Okay, now I'm gonna go into more of a maybe a philosophical or spiritual, angle. But animals are just so cute. They are so adorable. You look at an animal and you're like, "Aw!" Like you look at a dog, you look at a cat, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's so cute." It's like, they're so innocent, so innocent, and people love their pets. And for some reason, we've chosen certain species to really pour our love into, and then other species we cast aside as things to breed and then to kill and chop up for our consumption. And the hypocrisy in those two behaviors and those two outlooks is quite significant, right? It's crazy, because certain species we deem as unworthy of our love, of our care. We hide them in these huge mega industrialized like kill farms or whatever they're called, and we give zero shits about them. And I think that's very unfair, right? And if I can eat foods that sustain my body in an even more superior manner, and I can reduce or even eliminate the inflammation in my body, and also get all the vitamins I need and the minerals I need, and also freaking make sure my muscles are sustained with amino acids, I mean, it's a no-brainer, honestly, right? Because I don't want to be no hypocrite. I don't want to be a person who loves, certain animals, and then the other ones that are hidden from us because they are exploited. I don't want to be that kind of person who says yes to this one, but then turns a blind eye to the other. And so I think it's really a win-win-win in all regards, right? And I'm sure some people have the question of, but can I get all the nutrients I need from eating plants? And there are certain nutrients that you might need to supplement with, like, for example, B12, which is usually only found in animal foods. And so that's an easy fix, because most plant foods, including, say, for example, your plant milks, are fortified with B12, right? And if you want to just grab a container of B12 capsules, then you can do that for like $20, right? And what's funny is also that the meat, like the animal products that people buy and think contain all the nutrients they need, those animals and their feed, so what they are used to grow with, that feed is fortified. It doesn't come from that animal magically. Those animals, I mean, we're not even going to talk about their living conditions and the fact that these animals themselves have cancers and tumors and whatnot that are cut out by butchers. Like, I've seen those videos, I'm not sure if you have too, where they cut out these huge gray tumors from like parts of cows and stuff like that, because these animals are freaking sick. And so when you put, like meat into your body that is from the body of an animal that had lived in misery and suffering its entire short life, I mean, energetically, karmically, is not a great thing to do, right? So anyway, back to the nutrients that we need. So you might need to find some B12, right? And if you're a female like me, then you might need to supplement with iron, because that is usually something we're just low in naturally, no matter if you eat meat or you don't eat meat. So that might be something to consider as well, just to make sure your energy is nice and high. And if you don't
Actually,
have,
one thing I want to add to that is that so yeah, if you do get, so like our blood has including animal blood has iron. It's called heme iron, and so then the animal iron that you would get tends to be very inflammatory or pro-inflammatory in our bodies when we consume it. So, but the iron you get from, or we call non-heme iron that you get from plants, is the opposite. So it is still one of the ways that you would want to get your iron anyway, through plants.
I mean, that's amazing. And that's just yet another example of the fact that the plant version of things is just less inflammatory, if not just entirely not inflammatory and anti-inflammatory, in
Mm.
fact. That's amazing. Yeah. So I'm just thinking about what I tend to supplement with. I mean, at this age, like, a few years away from 40, I don't know if you experienced this as well, but all the computer work I used to do before I became a trainer over 10 years ago, I developed like carpal tunnel from it. And then before I did that work, when I was paying for my university, I was a server, and you just carrying heavy trays of glasses all shift long, right? And so my wrists and my hands and my forearms are pretty damaged from all that work. And then of course doing heavy lifts and everything like that just exacerbates that. So I am finding that I'm eating more turmeric, right, for the curcumin and for the anti-inflammatory benefits of that. And also I'm eating some glucosamine, which I think is just helpful for anyone who does any heavy grip work, right? I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Oh, actually, I don't have any thoughts on the glucosamine.
Oh,
Never thought about it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but
I don't really supplement with anything. Just
yeah,
diet stuff and yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Since
honestly,
mhm.
huh?
I was say, but yeah, if you have any insight or whatever, yeah, go let us know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I did not. I was a very whole foods only. Just get all your nutrients from eating food. And then, unfortunately, I watched some documentaries and did some reading on how the soil quality nowadays is so depleted. So I mean, even if you're trying to buy organic, or you're, buying local and everything like that, just the majority of the commercially produced produce that we have available is not as high in nutrients as they were 50 to 60 years ago, just from this mass usage of the land, right? And so because of that, I have had started to supplement a few years ago, just in case, right? I don't
Mhm. Yeah.
like the artificial, um like I really don't like eating artificial, and I don't like to have to rely on that. But the fact of the matter is that unless you live on a farm, or you want to spend hundreds on produce every week on having very nice local organic berries and whatnot, that's just one of the things that you might do as insurance to just make sure you're not going to have any deficiencies, right? So that's one of the things of living here, like in a world where like the production of things has become so colossal that it may affect other things like soil, right?
Yeah, yeah, and this is something that like these are recommendations even for people who are not plant-based or vegan. It's like, yeah, all doctors are told to recommend like a multivitamin or something. And even the B12, especially for senior citizens, is highly recommended regardless of how you eat. So
Yeah.
it's kind of almost like universal, and kind of going back to what you just said about like, some of these nutrients might not be as present, because even there are differences even with harvests and stuff from year to year and all that. So
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think especially now with like changing weather patterns, like there's gonna be droughts, there's gonna be floods, there's gonna be things that affect, how the food we get is produced, right? Or whether we even get as much every year. Like here in BC, in British Columbia, we're like your sibling to the north, right? And so east of us, east of where I am, towards the central part of Canada, there is an area called the Okanagan, which is where there is like a ton of peaches and nectarines and berries and corn and everything like that. So it's like this abundance of farms. And unfortunately, this year there were some differences in the weather pattern that caused most of the, like it just caused this year's crop to be like drastically reduced, right? And like I think that's just going to keep happening. Like we're just going to keep having to, deal with different like farming outputs over the years. So if you can grab a good quality multivitamin, I would suggest you do it. And also just be careful about the brand, because when like there's been some experiments done on the on what each um capsule actually contains, and a lot of these brands actually don't contain as much as they say, or they don't contain any of the nutrient that it says, which is not surprising, unfortunately. So things like the Kirkland brand, like the Costco brand, is one of the culprits. There's also, of course, like, I mean, this is not surprising. All the cheaper ones that are mass produced, like Walmart stuff or any of that, are going to be a little bit less scrupulous and a bit less ethical about what they actually give to you, right? At the cost of their own expense. So, yeah, that's something to look into. So just do a quick Google search of, which vitamin brands are good and which have been found to not contain the nutrient that they say.
Yeah, actually, that's good advice because yeah, that's very true. It's like a lot of, oh yeah, exactly. That research has been done where it's like they randomly took stuff off the store shelves and they found out the majority, right, don't even contain what's listed on
Yeah,
the package, which is sad and kind of frightening for people who
yeah.
buy a
Like
lot of
we
that.
have to. And that's the thing, man. We have to be so on guard nowadays because they want our money, right? Like that's why I hate the corporate structure, because they are responsible to shareholders and they're not responsible to the consumer. And I mean, this is just the unfortunate, it's just unfortunate. So, I mean, if you have, access to smaller businesses, like farm markets where maybe farm, like the produce is brought in from local farms, those, if you have the dollars for it, those would be the businesses to support, because that is within our communities and these are the people that we share this space with. And honestly, all the Walmarts, like I live right beside one, unfortunately, and it's so convenient, but I hate it, right? So all these Walmarts and Amazons and everything, like they don't give two shits about us. They really do not care about us. Like these CEOs are out gallivanting around with their spaceships or whatever they have, right? So like we have to have take the onus, like we have to take the responsibility of doing our DD and really looking into what we're supporting with our consumer dollars and what we are putting into our bodies. And that's why, like, even a podcast, like an episode like today's, is super important, because, it's not really about the, like, which foods have which nutrients and, like, eat this for that or whatever. That's important too. But I think it's more important to really be aware of the fact that we have to empower ourselves, right, to be diligent and to be caring enough about seeking knowledge about what the heck is going on in this world, right? And then armed with that knowledge, then we can make healthier choices. that will serve us better in our futures and for the goals that we have. So for your listeners, they want higher performance, they want faster, stronger, more power, all that stuff, faster recovery, right? And yeah, like if that's the case, then definitely avoiding foods that have all sorts of different chemicals and preservatives and fillers and binders and coloring agents, dyes, all these things, that's going to help you out, that's for sure. Okay. Back to whole foods is the best.
All
So,
right. Yeah,
well,
very well stated. I think maybe that could be it for today. I think you
oh yeah,
really, you really, I think you really hit the nail on the head, and they kind of mentioned all the different things. So, like, just think simply, reduce the stress on your body. That's going to help you
yeah.
recover. The diet's going to really help you in that way. So, thank you very much for elaborating on that, Maria.
Oh, my pleasure. That was so fun. And I really wish all your viewers the best in all their endeavors. Um, if you're wanting to, just try it out because I think really you will be pleasantly surprised. Like I was pleasantly surprised. Raul, I'm sure you were pleasantly surprised, right? It is a bit of a switch, a transition. But now is the best time because now we're armed with, like, we have so much knowledge and information at our disposal. And if you guys live in LA, you are like one of the best cities for health foods, like in the world, straight up. So if you want to buy hemp seeds for omega-3s and fiber, you can do that. If you want to buy high quality organic chickpeas bulk, you can buy that. Like I was just talking to you before we started filming. Like, I mean, imagine if you lived in the middle of the Midwest or you lived in freaking, I don't know, God knows where, like Alaska or something like that. Like, Los Angeles is a freaking paradise for finding high quality, health conscious foods. So make the most of that, okay? Like, it is a real luxury to live there.
Yeah, I agree. And like, yeah, yeah, a lot of the food from around the world comes here and then it gets
Ah,
distributed. Yeah, so yeah, if you live in LA, there's different markets where you can get the stuff like from the same distributor that your store or your restaurants get it. So yeah, we are pretty lucky in that way because you get it for the same price. They'll charge you the same as the
wholesale.
market. Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
goodness. That's amazing. Yeah, like just that. Like you can just save money doing that and eating like more um just less inflammatory foods. Amazing,
Mm,
seriously.
yep, and like way cheaper, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
mhm.
So save some money there cuz it's not like freaking buying groceries now and buying meat is cheap, right? It's like it's not like it's that cheap even. So
Yeah. And it's usually subsidized in the United States. I'm sure it's probably subsidized in
oh,
Canada too.
yeah, it's subsidized. That's right.
Yeah. So even if you feel like it's expensive, it's actually even more expensive because if they take away the government subsidies, it'd be way more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. So do you want to? I'm going to put it in the show notes anyway. But do you want to mention like your website or your
Sure.
business?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so if any of you guys have any questions or you want to just run your, say, your training protocol by me and you want to ask about protein or you want to ask about how to transition or replace foods, I am at Meat Free Maria Lee on Instagram. So Meat Free Maria Lee, Lee. And yeah, you can find me there. And my website for my company my company is called Tribe Fitness, and the website is Tribe, TRIBE, Fit, FIT, .ca in Canada. Okay, so those are the two areas you can find me and just check me out and just see what I'm about. But yeah, I'm up for if you have any questions at all, then just shoot me a DM, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully, yeah, if anybody has any questions, we can also have Maria back to answer some more as well. So feel free to leave some comments.
Yeah, any questions or comments or any other topics that are interesting that you want to explore, then we can do it up.
All right. Okay, so thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Raul.
Thank you.